The only thing that's non-negotiable for me is my values. My integrity I'll make mistakes and I'll get things wrong and I'll let people down, but I'll never do it deliberately. Yeah. I've had phenomenal success, but I'm a very average guy that's learned how to be successful. And I think for anyone listening or watching the podcast, if I can do this, anybody can do this. If they learn to be resilient, they learn to work hard, they surround themselves by good people, they build a strong culture, and they grow and develop continuously.
Okay, so it's 2025. This is the first podcast of the year. I've completely forgotten what I'm doing. A little bit nervous because this guy is an absolute monster in the franchise industry. But please, would you do me a favour? Just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Thank you, Ryan.
That's all right.
I'm Trevor Brocklebank. I'm the co-founder of Rise. We provide adapted seated sports.
This is for people in... Is it just nursing homes you supply or is it other places you supply?
Great question. We work with, our youngest client has been 2.
Wow.
In a hospice. Lots of work with children, particularly with autism or physical challenges. Yep. We work with people receiving treatment after a stroke in the 30s, 40s. Right. People having car accidents, trying to get mobile again, through to our oldest client was 102.
All right. I never even come to my brain that side of it, really. But yeah, I guess I can see why.
We also do a lot of community sessions.
Right, okay.
If you think most gyms are set up for people between, 18 and 30, 18 and 40, if you're 50 or 60 and want to do some exercise, where'd you go?
Yeah.
Gyms are full of bass music, lots of mirrors. From a business perspective, you've actually got lots of people with disposable income and lots of time. Yeah. So there's a big opportunity to provide sports and activities that are tailored to their requirements rather than that younger generation. We also do a lot of team sessions for businesses. We'd love to come here and do one with your team.
Oh, yeah,
if you think you've got an age range of people in office from 18 to 60, what can you do that involves everybody on a level playing field? So we've just done a session with the Hilton managers down in Brighton. The opportunities are almost endless.
Oh yeah, no, we'll definitely do one here. Actually, thinking about it, that'll work really well. Actually, in here, we're always trying to do stuff. We can climb mountains with the team, and half the team don't want to do it. Some have never done it before, so then when they do it, like, there's blisters and the sore ankles and the whole health thing comes into play. So, we'll definitely do.
Well, if you can think of a sport, we have a seated version. We do specials for Christmas. We have snowball fights at Christmas. It's about putting fun into exercise. It's not just about... We had a gentleman who the physio said he can't raise his arm above here. Well, if all he can feel is the pain and what he's doing, then of course he can't. But you have him playing tennis with his mates with a balloon and a stick, and all of a sudden his arm's up here. So the physical benefits are huge.
Yeah, what a nice franchise that is. How did you get involved with that?
Rob Oyston was on the BFA board with me, running a business called Sports Extra.
Right.
Sadly, Rob got really poorly. He got pulmonary embolisms, nearly died. He had 4 boys under 10 at the time.
Wow.
And he'd been a PE teacher. He was very much into his physical contact sports. And they told him the risk of him becoming ill again means that he can't play anything contact. He can't play his rugby or his football or his boxing. And he found it really hard to rehabilitate. And he said, well, if I'm struggling as a really fit PE teacher, how on earth someone who's 70 that's had a hip replacement is going to get back to fitness? So that's where he designed the programs. He ran them in Cardiff, huge demand. And he rang my wife Sam and I and said, do you want to get involved and help me expand this across the UK?
No way, that was it.
That was it.
Amazing, that, isn't it? I love that. From an idea of need, it's nice.
Yeah.
They're always the best kind of stories, aren't they?
And I think what you've brought together, it feels to me like Home Instead, the last business I founded 20 years ago. I'm a great believer in swimming with the tide. You meet some people and you think, how on earth have you ever been successful, but you made a load of money? You meet other people who are really good but have always struggled to get by. And I think if you could jump in the sea and swim against the tide, it's really difficult. You turn around and swim the opposite way, you go twice as fast.
So true that.
And I think swimming with the tide is hugely important for any business owner. And I think Rise is absolutely swimming with the tide. I think well-being of older people is becoming increasingly more important.
It is, isn't it?
I think
well-being of everyone's good.
Yeah, absolutely. Huge. And we have quizzes, we have music. So there's a lot of mental well-being as well as physical well-being.
Right.
So I love it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, Matt, so what board were you on? Sports Extra, was it? What did you say?
No, sorry, I was on the British Franchise Association board,
Right.
as was Rob.
Was he really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
How long's Rob been in franchising for?
20 years, maybe.
No way. Love
Yeah.
that. Amazing.
Sports Extra he was one of the first franchise organisations that provided after-school clubs for kids.
Right, okay.
In fact, he's still doing that in Cardiff and a couple of other locations. But his real passion now is Rise and what we're doing.
I love that. Didn't know that about Rob at all. Amazing. So, you know what? This is going to go like, I have to ask you about Home Instead. I have to find out about that. But at the same time, I'm equally as intrigued about Rise now because I feel like that's an amazing opportunity. I really like the sound of it. I have talked to you about me buying a franchise as well because I know that I'll be able to amalgamate into my business so easy.
Well, Rise was founded in September 21. We're already up to 16 franchises.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And we're very selective, so it's not as if we're just trying to grow as fast as we can.
Well, I think you'll have learned that in your time, won't you?
Yeah, absolutely. But we've got quite a few people who run very successful care franchises who have this as an add-on.
Yeah.
It's very much an opportunity to expand what people are already doing as well as doing it as a standalone.
I think I'm going to revisit that conversation. I think it's a no-brainer. We've been recently doing some Diddy dance classes, and they landed really, really well. But I think this probably plays more to my heart than the Diddy dance one, because one, I'm not going to dance around in. But I think it's also amazing, isn't it? That side of it. But this side feels good to me because it plays to my heartstring because of my dad.
Yeah.
My dad got Parkinson's, and I remember going to see him in a nursing home in Southport, and they were doing some sort of physical activities with him there. And at the time, I was thinking, I'll be honest with you, at the time I thought, it's fucking pathetic, to be honest with you, that my dad's in that state, but then afterwards you get past that annoyance and anger and sadness and realise, well, if that's all he can do, that's great.
And I think that's a really important comment because it has to be appropriate for the person you're providing the service to.
Yeah.
So some of our participants, watching a balloon across their eyes is enough physical exercise. It's challenging, it's stimulating them. So we also do one-to-ones. We have people who can't join in a group activity, so we've developed one-to-one sessions. Yeah. I think the other thing is if you're competitive at 21, you're still going to be competitive at 81.
Oh, yeah.
But if you walk into a care home, I don't need to ask where the right session is because you can hear it. Yeah. You can hear the noise. Yeah. People then talk about it all week. We had a lady who was 100 and they said to her, what would you like for your birthday? And she said, I want a pair of trainers and a Rise session so I can get a hat trick.
No, amazing. Mate, that's absolute... Yeah. Makes me upset a little bit because that's like what my dad was like, and at the time I didn't realise. Yeah, it's a difficult thing to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, mad. What a nice place to be, especially after Home Instead. Like it's like obviously would have got the same. Isn't it nice to be in a business that you actually have some heartstrings around?
I totally agree. I think my first business was an IT company.
Yeah,
we became one of the top companies in the world at what we did in our niche. It was a small niche, but we were very successful. And we sold that, and at 30, I was in the luxurious position of saying, what do I want to do next, rather than what do I have to do?
Yeah.
The IT company was all politics, egos, and budgets.
Yeah.
You might put a penny on the share price of Unilever or the BBC or Novartis, but actually, what difference are you making?
Yeah.
And then my granddad became ill, and the care he got was shocking.
Yeah.
And I thought there's got to be a better way of providing care. We had 3 carers going in, different carer every time, 15 minutes at a time. It would take him 5-10 minutes to get out of his chair and get to the door. They'd throw some food in the microwave. It'd be lasagna. He was a very traditional eater. He wasn't going to eat pasta. Yeah. He was a diabetic, so then he'd have a hypo attack and he'd end up back in hospital. And then when we went round, we spent all our time tidying the house and just looking after him. We thought, there must be a solution where someone goes in for an hour a day, cooks him a decent meal, takes him out for his pension and prescription, and the same person every day, so if his health deteriorates or something changes, they can get on the phone and we can come over. And I just couldn't find a care company that was doing that at the time. Yeah. So jumped on a plane, went to the States, came across Home Instead and a number of other providers. Home Instead was the US leader at the time. Yeah. That's exactly what they did. So we bought the UK rights from Home Instead and set the business up.
Mad. I need to pry because I feel like you're more than like Home Instead as well. Like, to talk to, how old are you?
61.
Done a lot, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, you do when you get to my age.
Yeah, but not that you're still young, aren't you? Really, you're kind of young, really, aren't you? In the working world nowadays, most people work till late 70s.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like, so you still got 15 years in you, I think, before you hang your boots up.
Well, and one of the reasons I sold home instead when I did was I was still young enough to do another business.
Yeah.
And that was part of the criteria when.
So what did and where do I go with this? It's fucking difficult when someone's done so much and it's got to a certain age and getting it right to capture what you've done, because what you have done, I can feel it over the table already is incredible, because I run a business, it's a very small business, and I've only been doing it a very short period of time, but I know what it takes for me to do this business. So for you to have done what you've done and bought and sold, created and sold businesses, I find that a fucking gigantic task for me personally, where I'm at in my career. Talk to me about where do I go from here? How did you start off the IT company and why did you start it?
So when I left school, it was a case of school and me weren't best friends.
Yeah. Fuck it, just go back to school. Talk to me about school.
So in hindsight, many years later, I've discovered I have probably dyslexia, ADHD, a bit of autism. I'm colourblind, I'm tone deaf. I have aphantasia, I can't visualise anything internally. So my brain's weird. Particularly weird.
I love that.
So, and that is a blessing and a curse.
Yeah.
It becomes more of a blessing when you're running a business. It's more of a curse when you get home at 7 o'clock and can't turn off. And it's certainly a curse when you're at school trying to learn things the traditional way.
Yeah.
So I brought an old school report, thinking you might ask about this.
Yeah, please talk to me about it.
So let me read you a few of the comments. A most disappointing exam result. He appears to be very much a pass-fail borderline candidate. He occasionally comes to life, but more effort still needed. He has not made any real effort to acquire the requisite information to enable him to join class discussions. Most disappointing, he does less than the minimum amount of work and does not keep up with the necessary vocabulary and grammar. A moderate effort. Group tutor. There are signs that he may not be doing as well as he ought for want of effort. That should not be heard of at this stage. Housemaster continues to make slow progress, needs to concentrate on the essentials. Headmaster. He is probably doing all he can, but I fear progress is slow.
Mad, isn't it?
What a damning comment.
It's interesting though, isn't it? Because I've got a couple of comments on that. One, obviously you hated education because they didn't understand you, and two, I think the education system is much better now, but I could be wrong.
Yeah. So, ironically, I'm chair of governors of what is now one of the most successful schools in England.
Yeah.
So the Grange in Hertford is in the top 1% of all schools in the UK for value added at GCSE, and the top 10% for value added at A level. And value added is the difference between what they predict you're going to get there when you join and where you finish up. As a small school, we've been national netball champions, national rowing champions, and done extremely well in a whole number of sports.
Yeah.
We've got people who've gone on to be professional actors and artists. The school education is so different to what I went through.
Same.
My son's just graduated with really good A-level results. My daughter did a few years ago with the same profile as me.
Yeah.
But the system is so much better at helping coaching. And I think for them, if they've got all the strengths that I've got from seeing things differently, but then minimise so many of the weaknesses by teaching them how to learn things differently, I really just like where it says he's not made the effort. What they couldn't see was I was working 4 hours the night before and still couldn't learn and retain the information.
Yeah.
So school reports that say he's not making an effort have no idea how much effort you put in the night before. They just see the outcome and the performance. So, fortunately, the educational system in a lot of schools, but not all schools, has moved on massively since then. What I did do was love the sports and the team building and the activities, so that's where I threw myself.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same about school. I could have just tried harder, but it's just because I wasn't interested. Yeah, I couldn't grasp. I didn't think it was interesting. I couldn't get my head around it. I wish I'd known, paid more attention.
Well, I think trying to tell a teenage boy to read 15th century love poems is not really going to engage them. It's the same way of talking about AI and how AI strategies are going to change the world. And so it's really important that education is now. And actually, we need to teach people how to be resilient, how to be strong characters, how to work hard. That's what's going to make you successful in life.
Yeah,
not being an expert in
geography.
Yeah. So I love learning. I've always loved learning. I just didn't like learning in that environment in the way that does.
Yeah, I'm to be honest with you, I'm the same. I picked up reading a couple of years ago. I'm dyslexic, and I've never read a book ever since school. And I think it was only about 4 years ago I started reading books. I did something called the 75 Hard. I don't know if you heard of it.
No.
So it's 75 consecutive days. At any one point you fail, you have to go back to day one.
Right.
But it's every day consecutively, you've got to do 2 workouts, 45 minutes, and one's got to be outside.
Okay.
You can't eat chocolate, sweets or crisps or alcohol. You've got to read 10 pages of a non-fictional book, and you've got to drink 5 gallons of water for 75 days.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Yeah.
I read 3 books.
Yeah.
And since then, I kind of picked it back up again. And then, to be honest with you, I've actually stopped because I've been going through a bit of a life challenge in myself, getting divorced.
Yeah.
And then there's a book, Dr. Julie Smith, and she's brought out a book that just like, she's explained the book to me on a socials, and I was like, oh my God, I need to read this book immediately. Yeah. So I picked it up last night, I read 10 pages of it last night. I'm going to start doing that again. But yeah, I think if there was my little boys both go to the same primary school and they love school.
Yeah.
One's a bit like me, a bit of a lone wolf, Jackson. I don't have very many friends and I move in small circles. And Logan's complete opposite. He has loads of friends, loads of girlfriends. He's a centre of attention. But they both love school identically. Jackson's got dyslexia. I'm pretty sure Logan will have it as well. But I'm really glad they like school, which then makes me feel better about it because I hated school. Yeah.
So at the Grange, about 20% of the students, we believe, have some sort of neurodiversity. Yeah. And actually, if you look at the research, it's saying what's neurodivergent now will become the norm in 20, 30 years because we're evolving. That's why there's so many more people now. Because the skills you need to sit at a computer all day aren't the same tribal skills that you needed
that's true.
to live 2 centuries ago. So we're evolving in that direction.
I actually quite like people who are a little bit like nuts. I don't like normal people anyway. I think everyone's a little bit nuts, aren't they? Yeah. It's just who's willing to let you see a nut side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if they keep that facade up.
Yeah.
I like the people a little bit nut bonkers. Okay, where do I go? I'm going to come back to your family later, but what intrigues me the most is you've obviously got that hunger for continuing to do something. You left school, didn't enjoy school. Obviously, the teachers didn't like you or didn't think you were very good. They might have liked you. Where did you go from there, and what was your choices?
I left. I went to what was the biggest comprehensive in Cheshire at the time, in Warrington. I left there and I went to an Army sixth form, which in hindsight was really a self-help group for people with ADHD. It was full of people that wanted to run around for hours and do lots of exercise. And they put themselves, take lots of risks. So that suddenly normalised my behaviour. The Army had decided they wanted lots of working class lads to become officers, to try and break down the officer corps, which was Daddy was a major and Granddaddy was a colonel. Yeah. But it meant when I went to Sandhurst, the cultural shock from going from Warrington to Sandhurst was huge. Yeah. And that was too much for me at the time, which was a shame, but that was the reality. So I left the Army. I spent a year doing various jobs, just couldn't find anything that suited me. I got a sales trainee job with the Clerical Medical and General Life Assurance Society. And I turned up and I sat at my desk and they said, right, you put these quotes into the computer. And I was 18. And I said, well, when do I get out and do some sales work? Oh, when you're 21.
Yeah,
I'm not. So I went back and did a degree, which really because there was no better option. When I finished my degree, I went to work for Nissan up in Tyne and Wear. Maggie Thatcher had given Nissan these huge grants to get the car made in Europe. Purchasing was quite revolutionary. Nissan, it was very much a win-win there, which was alien to the whole sector, which was very hit supplier over the head, and if they smiled, hit them harder.
Yeah.
So they couldn't recruit existing buyers, so they brought a whole bunch of in-house graduates, and I was given a design engineer, a quality engineer, and a budget, and I flew around Europe getting the engine made there, which was brilliant experience.
Wow, that's an amazing job to land, isn't it?
I love that.
Wow.
Did that for 7-8 years. And then it got to be tweaking or fine-tuning. There's still a lot of work to be done. No one had left in 7 years, and virtually everybody left at the same time because they needed a different type of person to take it to the next level. So I went to Mercury Communications, where I was Deputy Director of Purchasing, Supply, Logistics and Property, which is the longest job title I've ever had. And then all these sales guys were coming in and working about half as hard as me and earning twice as much money. Yeah. And I thought someone's got it wrong and it's not them. Yeah. So I moved into a business development role. Then I got a sales manager job at BT. I did that for 18 months. That was about 17 and a half months too long. Yeah. There's only so many times you can promise something to a customer knowing it's probably not going to happen. It's going to be late. It's going to be delayed. And it just wasn't for me. And at the time, my wife, Sam, was working for Deloitte Consultancy as a SAP consultant, which is a new IT system that had come out. And we thought between her technical skills and my general commercial background, we could do something together. So we set our first IT company up. Mm-hmm. That was Mesonet, which was the business I mentioned. We did business intelligence solutions for large corporates. And
but why why did you want to do it for yourself? Is there a reason why you wanted to do it for yourself, or is it mum and dad had businesses? Was there a need? What?
So,
was there a driving force behind it?
I love culture. I love the culture of a business.
Yeah.
And I find big businesses get too political.
Yeah.
And that's just not me. They're too serious. I like to take what I do seriously, but not myself. I want to have fun. If you're not enjoying what you do, go and do something else.
Yeah.
You've got to have, in my opinion,
fun.
Having fun, having a laugh helps you manage the stress, helps you make you more 100%. Resilient. So there were an awful lot of attractions. Also, Sam and I were living out of suitcases. We were flying around the world, and it was just, we wanted to be more in control of our own destiny.
Can I ask you a question? Because this is just resonating with me massively. Have you ever felt under criticism from wanting to run a business funly? Have you ever felt like other people say you're not professional?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, for years, I thought I was a great boss.
Yeah.
And then I realised that was just a naive statement. And I was a great boss for people who liked working with me and my style. I was a horrendous boss for people who didn't fit in to that culture and that style. And some people think that you need to be very straight. And laughing in the face of adversity is the wrong thing to do. But actually, I think that's hugely important. And I think you can't please all the people all the time. I wouldn't worry about that. That's the way my business is.
It's sort of, mate, you have no idea how much peace that brings me, because that's what I go through all the time. It's like I like to run Tezlom having a laugh.
Yeah.
I don't take it seriously, even in the hardest, most difficult moments. Like last year was a fucking tough year.
Yeah.
In COVID, it was horrendous.
Yeah.
And I just kept the momentum going all the time, serious banter all the time, laughing and joking all the time, trying to make light of situations. People going through personal dilemmas, I will find the most insecurity and turn it into a joke.
Yeah.
I try and keep that momentum going, but I always feel like when someone leaves the business, you hear from the jungle drums criticism in the background, and
you have to bring humour to those moments.
Yeah,
that's the only way, in my opinion, you get through them.
I do exactly the same, and I always feel like I'm under criticism for it, but I think it works. I think it creates a better team culture, but sometimes I feel like people say stuff behind me, especially when they leave the business. But then again, someone reached out to me this morning who used to work for me and said they love working for me, and I didn't think they did. So it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think quality and humour, that they don't. I think humour improves quality if you have the right people who know when to take things seriously and when it's time for humour and when it isn't, and when you need to get your head down and you need to get some results.
A bit like that swan thing, isn't it? The swan analogy. Everything's a laugh and a joke on top, but when things need to be done, we're the same. To be honest with you, I'll be honest with you. I think HR would probably shut Tezlom down overnight based on what the conversations that go on sometimes. I think we'd probably be on the front page of national press. But we're also on the front page of national press for being the top third agency in the UK for highest quality. We're on every single framework in the UK and pass every single audit for doing an amazing job. Yep. We've been around for 16 years and supply every... You know what I mean? So it's backed up by... Yep. It's backed up because we can.
Yeah.
It's a bit like me, I'm covered in tattoos. I've got hand tattoos, and I don't dress like a director of a healthcare recruitment agency because I choose not to, because life taught me not to take it so seriously. When you find your dead brother at the bottom of the stairs, you stop giving a fuck about things like that. But also, I can stand on my own 2 feet, and I'm very trustworthy. And you take me as I am. So I think it's interesting. I really appreciate this conversation this morning. So.
Well, I think when those things happen, it puts life into perspective.
Yeah.
And actually, having a laugh and a joke
gets you through.
Yeah, gets you through.
Yeah. I even remember saying, my mum couldn't handle it at the time, but I remember saying a joke to my mum about Dad when we were driving to the crematorium when my dad passed away. And it was. I always say the most damning things in the middle of the heat of the thing. I think gets you done. It's interesting. So the IT company, did it go well? Did it crack on?
Yeah, it went very well. They became one of the top 3 in the world at what we did.
What did you exactly do?
So we took people who'd invested SAP, which is £1 million investment for large corporates, and it was meant to be an end-to-end computer system, but it wasn't really. It was actually lots of different silos.
Right.
And they brought out a business intelligence layer that worked across the top, that took all the data out, manipulated that, and gave people huge amounts of information.
Right.
So we were looking at that thinking, this is a no-brainer. Everybody's going to be installing this. And none of the competition realised that. So we had a couple of years thinking, why is no one else doing this? What we're missing? And then all of a sudden it took off, and we were...
Amazing, isn't it?
So that was... Again, it was...
Saw an opportunity in tough aspect.
Yeah. I think one of my skills is recognising opportunities and grabbing hold of them.
Grabbing hold of them,
Yeah. And so that's what we did. However, we got to the stage where we really needed to be part of a bigger organisation. We were, there's 1 week I was presenting in Florida. We had a team working in Venezuela, another team in Australia, teams all over Europe, and there was only 20 of us. We were spread so thinly, it was ridiculous. But then who'd you sell to? I was passionate about culture, and lots of people had left big consultancies to come to work for us, perhaps with a pay cut, because they got more job satisfaction. If there was a project near home, we'd put them on that rather than there, so they could get back and see their family. If they wanted to get involved in a bit of business development or some methodology work, we'd do that. Unilog was voted one of the top 10 companies in Europe across every sector to work for by the Wall Street Journal, and they came along and made us an offer we couldn't refuse to sell the business.
Mate, that is insane, that, isn't it? Wow. Where do you think... Do you think there's anyone or anything that you went through in your life prior to that got you into a position where you think you could... People must believe in you, Trevor. Like, how do people believe in you? Or is that too big a question?
I think it's because I'm trustworthy. The only thing that's non-negotiable for me is my values. My integrity will... I'll make mistakes and I'll get things wrong and I'll let people down, but I'll never do it deliberately.
Yeah.
And I think I've had phenomenal success, but I'm a very average guy that's learned how to be successful. And I think for anyone listening or watching the podcast, if I can do this, anybody can do this. If they learn to be resilient, they learn to work hard, they surround themselves by good people, they build a strong culture, and they grow and develop continuously. I think that's if you have ADHD and a great wife, that helps. But actually, they're the core skills, I think, that if anybody really commits to and makes the sacrifices that entails, they can be successful.
I can't agree anymore with you. I can't agree anymore with you. They're exactly the same things I think about. The last one is probably one of my most key ones, and what I'm going through maybe because of my age, or just because of where the business is right now, is that self-awareness piece of just being able to change and give yourself. You have to reflect, don't you, on yourself to change.
So I think one reason businesses don't grow is because the owners don't reinvent themselves. So you can get a business, you can do really well and get it to a certain point, but if you carry on behaving in that way, it's going to carry on performing at that level. So you need to think, right, I'm going to take a step back. I think it's a great question I ask myself every Christmas. And that is, one, if I was appointed to my job now, replacing the old me, what would I do differently? And two, what's the secret sauce that I absolutely need to make sure we keep doing? And I think the balance of those two questions is really important. You don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just reinvent everything there, but you also need to change, and you need to consciously change, and you need to communicate that change to your team. The worst thing is if a leader, you suddenly decide, right, I'm going to be completely different tomorrow, and think, what's going on here? Yeah. So you need to take your team with you and explain to them why you're changing and why what happened last year worked really well, but it's not the way we're going to be for the next 12 months.
I think communicating to your teams is a massive one that I've learned as well. I think you only learn your to these things through mistakes anyway, don't you?
The most underrated leadership skill to me is listening. Everybody says this is how to present, or this is how to do a business plan, or this is... Very few people talk about listening. But if you can listen to your team, listen to your customers, and actively listen, so ask the right questions, they really understand what people's needs are, then you can really start to address them. But it's really difficult to be an active listener, because normally you get halfway through a sentence and you want to butt in and you want to make a comment and you want to...
Because we all think we know the answer straight away, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've got to ask you a bit more about leadership and team, because it always astounds me, leadership, and it's not... Leadership's like such a cliche word knocking around social media, and often on Instagram posts and LinkedIn posts and stuff like that, but actually acting and doing it and getting people to believe in you, it's such a topic of something you never really master, isn't it? I think it's something you can just continually work on. Yeah,
so I think learning and development. So when you start your career, there's loads to learn. So you're growing massively every day. You then get to a stage where a lot of learning is 1%. It's that there. Yeah. But if you grow at 1% a year, 1% a day, that's 364% a year.
Yeah.
Forgetting any compound growth, that's over 3,000% in 10 years. There. And that's just by 1% a day. One of my rules whenever I meet somebody, what have I learned from them? It's very easy to criticise or just there, but every time you meet someone, what's that one nugget? There's a nugget in everybody. Your job is to go and find it. So constantly finding that 1% a day.
Yeah.
It's a personal challenge, and I think it's... The cumulative impact is just massive.
Yeah,
there's very little that's new. Steal with pride. If people do things well, think that's a great idea. I'm going to go and do that.
Yeah. I do that, to be honest with you. Talk to me about the IT company, and talk to me about how you go about selling a business and that side of it. Like, something that was you and your missus' baby, and turning around to getting rid of it. How does that work?
That was a much easier sell than Home Instead. Mm-hmm. The Home Instead was very much a head and heart. I'll come on to that in a minute.
This is going to be a big podcast. There's too much to cover.
So the IT business was very much... The problem we had was our pipeline fell off a cliff every 3 months. Projects were 3 months long, so you constantly had a sales team. You were constantly having to market, and there was a huge amount of stress. And Unilever would say, the project's due to start on Monday, we've got a bit of an internal programme, so we're going to delay it a month. You've then got everybody sat on the bench for a month. That's your entire year's profits suddenly disappeared. Wow. So it was a challenging business to run. When you start to sell, I started going to different shows. I started marketing, because I'm trying to market to potential acquirers rather than potential customers. Yeah. So I'd go and present at events because there are potential acquirers there. And it's a sales process exactly the same as selling to a customer.
Oh, yeah, I suppose it is.
And you want them to approach you. You're always in a much stronger negotiation position if they come along. Yeah. So we went out, we got the brand out there without trying to make it too obvious that we were trying to sell. And then Unilog appeared. And that was it.
Negotiate a deal.
Yeah.
How does that... Are we allowed to talk about that, or are we not allowed to talk about that?
Yeah.
Because I always pry on that sort of stuff, because I've been involved in the sale of a business where didn't go through out of personal choice. We nearly sold our business. Yeah. How does that part of it go ahead? How did they value the business, and what did you have to commit to and what commit to and stuff like that?
So that was quite easy. It was a multiple of revenue.
Yeah.
Because that's how consultancies at the time were valued. So it was a very straightforward measure. Yeah. And you knew whether you were getting a good deal or not by the size of the multiple. It wasn't the biggest deal that was on the table. Someone else offered us more. But the cultural fit for the team was poor, and I wouldn't sell out the team.
That's amazing, that, isn't it?
So, I think it's the right... you wouldn't have had the success without them getting you there.
Did you deliver the news to the team yourself beforehand, or did you? How did that go down?
Yes, I think one of the challenges, having said that being truthful and having integrity is key, you then spend 2 months lying to everybody. That was the hardest bit in selling the business. There's a whole duality of conversation going on. So that was really difficult. the negotiations were quite straightforward. We had I think one of the risks in selling a business is you have two sets of lawyers who both have big egos and their own objectives. Yeah. And you have to have a conversation from time to time saying, don't forget who the customers is. Yeah. You know, we both want to sell, they want to buy. Yeah. Just make it happen.
Yeah.
But and I think the challenge is most people don't sell a business that many times.
No.
So you're learning during what's probably one of the biggest financial transaction in your life.
Yeah.
And that's part of the challenge. So make sure you get good advice. Make sure there are people around who've done it that you can learn from.
Did it all go smoothly in the end for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to being dyslexic, I went to work in Paris for a year. I think the other thing to add, our daughter was born, we sold the business on the 21st of December and our daughter was born on the 23rd of December.
Wow. This is your first daughter?
Yeah. So Sam had set the business up as a consultancy first, so she was 100% shareholder.
Yeah.
The French company was owned by an individual who said if the deal's not done by the end of December, it's off. And apparently deals had stopped because he was very...
the way he was.
Yeah, if it was the 2nd of January, it was off. So Sam was we had a sofa put into the lawyer's office in Manchester. She was 9 months pregnant. She just couldn't go into labour. That just couldn't happen. So it was like the Romans. We were bringing her grapes and I was bringing her papers to sign. And I was in the other room negotiating everything and then bringing it through. So the time pressure was quite intense.
Wow. It's amazing what goes on behind closed doors that people don't know.
Yeah.
Not going
on. No, it's fun. It's good.
And then got it over the line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then were you in a financial situation to have a breather, or did you need to move on, or what did you need to do? Does there a buyout involved or anything? Was it like so?
Yeah, so I was locked in for 12 months.
Yeah.
The intention was I was going to go to Paris, learn French, meet the team, and then come back and run a wider UK organisation.
Yeah.
Going back to being dyslexic, they always say the best way to learn the language is to go and live in the country. So I was in France, private tutor, everyone speaking French around me, and I just couldn't learn the language. Years later, when Ben, my son, got his dyslexia diagnosis, one of the things I learned is why some people with dyslexia just can't learn French. It's a particularly hard language, and that's exactly my situation.
No way.
So not learning the language stopped that plan. But also, again, it just didn't have that purpose. I think one of the things that gets you through life and the challenges is having that sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And I decided then I was only going to do things that made a difference. So that's my passion in life. I want to do things so chair of governors at the school, got involved with the parish council, got involved with business and government, got involved with the NHS as non-exec director, but they're all things that make a difference.
Yeah. I've been a trustee for a children's charity for 15 years, and that gives me so much.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to at the time.
Yeah.
But massive.
And I think if you're earning a huge salary, it's nice, but you soon get used to the money, and then it's just hard work. For me, you've got to have that purpose. You've got to have that.
Everyone gets used to this money straight away.
Yeah,
everyone gets used to money, don't they? Yeah, the money. I'd hate to be on a massive salary and hate my job.
Yeah.
That'd be the worst place because you've got huge overheads. You'll have a big payment on your car. You'll have a big mortgage.
Absolutely.
Your missus will be used to big holidays. Your kids will be used to a certain lifestyle. And if you hated your job, that'd be the worst.
You're trapped.
Yeah.
And you're trapped for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, there's no way out.
No. So I think so after the IT company, I did a master's degree in business coaching. I like to think my leadership style is a coaching style. I think if you can get people to work out how to grow themselves rather than tell them, it's a far stronger methodology. And I set a coaching company up with the guys who were leading the course. But it didn't give me enough challenge. It was too much like the previous consultancy I'd done. And then that's when my granddad became ill, so that's what made me look at the care sector. And at the time, everybody said it won't work. You can't build a national business doing private pay care. There isn't a market for it.
Wow. How long were they?
And at the time, it was like, well, I just couldn't see what. So Sam and I spent 3 months. We got the master franchise offer. We spent 3 months before we said yes and hit the button because we were just trying to work out, if something looks too good to be true, it normally is. Yeah. So what are we missing?
Why franchising, Trevor? Why?
I love franchising. But I think franchising is brilliant.
Franchising is brilliant, but if you sat there, where did you learn about franchising from that point?
So I think if you want to scale a business, you either go down the VC route and you get beholden to VCs and and their targets, and you really put your culture at risk potentially. Or you can go down the franchising route. The franchising is brilliant. It brings in local, passionate entrepreneurs who will really go the extra mile, who put their own capital in. And if you can give them the corporate infrastructure and processes and procedures and brand, then that's a really powerful combination.
Yeah.
So when I looked at franchise, it just seemed, I think particularly for something like home care where you need people to go the extra mile on the ground, same with Rise, same with your business.
Yeah.
The competitive advantage you have compared to your peers who are not franchise companies is massive.
Yeah, 100%. Got the backing, haven't you, and all the knowledge. It just blows out the water.
Yep.
So I need to like dig down in the home instead thing. So you literally said, right, okay, we're going to go and look at these businesses. So you went to Franchise Expo in America, did you? Or?
No, I saw a guy called Ian Martin from the Franchise Centre,
right?
There, who was representing he was actually representing a completely different brand there, and I was interested in the franchising side. And I got to the end and said, Ian, this is a really good business, but it's about making money. And if I wanted to make money, I'd just stay in IT.
Yeah.
I want to do something that makes a difference. And he said, well, funny you should mention that. And he got out the Home Instead brochure. And that's when I'm a great believer in serendipity. Then just everything came together. I've been looking at my granddad, what he needed. Ian came along with Home Instead, and
that was it. Went along, bought it. How do you put a deal like that together? They just have the deal. Franchise Centre had the deal across the table.
This is how much it costs you. And again, huge credit to Sam, my wife. We were in a position where the mortgage was paid off. We had money in the bank, not enough money to retire, but enough money to be comfortable. And we decided to gamble it all on Home Instead that everyone said wouldn't work. And we pressed return to wire the money over, and Sam just burst into tears. It was just like, this is a huge decision. Are we doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Are we doing the right thing for our kids here? Is this a...
Burning the boats, so when it's burning the boats, isn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to do, haven't you?
We can't learn to swim without letting go to the side.
Yeah, it's so true.
You've just got to go for it.
That's so true.
And I think going back to that list of what makes you successful, you have to just go for things. I think one of the challenges of being a leader is there's a real duality. And what I mean by that is sometimes you need to fail fast, and sometimes you need to say, I'm never going to fail. Sometimes you need to make a decision with the gut. Sometimes you need to step back and make a data decision. And there are so many contradictions there. And it's not something you can teach somebody. You just learn that from experience. It's so nuanced.
It can be quite I think a physical body and emotion as well. I feel like you physically feel pain sometimes, and trying to someone who's not been a leader or a business owner, trying to explain to them that you might be in the car crying, or you might be sat on the couch in a bad way, and them thinking, why would you want to do it, or how do you get yourself into that state of mind? But that's what it's really like. And
I think being positive is one of the most resilient. Being optimistic is a huge life skill.
100%.
It's what gets you through an awful lot.
Yeah, it does. Or a good night's sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
A good night's sleep and say, right, fuck it in the morning, get up and go. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to try my hardest and let's make it work.
Which is easier said than done when you have ADHD and there's a million things going through your brain and you're trying to get to sleep and you just can't get your brain to turn off.
Yeah, it's so true. It's difficult, isn't it, some days?
Yeah. So
you bought Home Instead, and you and Sam just went and cracked on together, is that?
Yep.
Talk to me about how do you set off something like that?
In hindsight, badly.
Did you?
The model we'd bought from the US. So part of my due diligence, Home Instead was working in Australia and Ireland, Southern Ireland. What I didn't realise was that the regulated environment in the UK was completely different. So we had no idea about regulation. The sales model that they had was it was very American there, so that needed to be localized. So there was an awful lot to be changed, far more than we'd anticipated. They don't have care managers. And also in the US, you don't have national newspapers. So if something's major happens in Omaha, Nebraska, where Home Instead's based, it's not going to go beyond Omaha, Nebraska. It might get to Lincoln, but it's certainly not going to get to New York or California. Yeah. Whereas in the UK, something happens and it's national news. Yeah. So we spent a lot of time having to rework the model, change it. The financial projections we agreed with the Americans turned out to be rubbish. We hemorrhaged all our life savings and we ran out of money. And we'd gone on to have 2 more children after Jess, so we We had 3 kids under 5. We had no money left and the business wasn't working.
Fuck me.
So that was quite stressful.
Wow, just having 3 kids under 5 is stressful.
Absolutely.
That's it in itself.
Yeah.
Wow, how do you... I'm going to go off on a tangent. What do you do to cope in them stressful situations? There must be something you do.
Okay, so I think... So, a very good mate of mine was killed in the Falklands. He was serving with the parachute regiment. In the month before he died, Jim was tabbing 20 miles a day with a rucksack on his back, carrying more than his body weight. He was trying to sleep on frozen ground in a little duvet that he could find there, and the people in front of him weren't trying to win business off him, they were trying to kill him, and sadly they succeeded. So that's my definition of stress. So I think what's really important is the human body can't differentiate between the stress of someone trying to kill you and the stress of being took on the M25 trying to get to a meeting and running late. So you have to learn how to control that stress. Now, with someone with ADHD that loses my car keys 5 or 6 times a week and finds that stressful, you need to learn how to deal with that stress and work out what level of stress you're actually focusing. One of my favourite books is The Sumo Guy by Paul McGee. Shut Up and Move On, Sumo. And one of his questions, if I combine 2 of his questions, he says on a scale of 1 to 10, when 10 is death, how important will this be? And then I would add, in 5 years' time. Because so many things happen, and in 5 years' time, you probably wouldn't even remember it, but at the time, it's so stressful. So I had a great wife, I had great kids. I knew how to build a business, so if we lost everything, we'd just start again. I wouldn't want to do that, and it would take and there was a bit of me saying, how arrogant have I been to risk everything on this idea that everyone told me it wouldn't work? But actually, the reality is, all I was losing was money. I still had my family around me, and I could go and find something else to make some money again in the future, even if it was just getting a job and paying the debts off. So I think there's a perspective bit that's really important. I think you've got to look after yourself. You've got to keep active. You've got to eat well. You've got to exercise. And they're the bits that can tend, particularly when you've got a busy job and then lots of kids running around every night. Yeah, that bit can go. Yeah. Sam and I started having a date night. And we went out on a Thursday night, and because we ran the business together and we had kids, the rules were you couldn't talk kids or work. Yeah. And we sat there the first night. I was like, what are we going to talk about? Yeah. There was just nothing to... Because we were so preoccupied with and we were business partners, we were parents, but actually life partners was way down the list because that was the bit that got suppressed. Yeah. So making sure that you take time to prioritise those events is hugely important. Yeah. I also think it's hugely important to take a long-term view. So if I looked at that month, that was a really bad month. Yeah. But Bill Gates said, most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in 10. And I think most people set a business up. After 6 months, it's not going well, so they jack it in. Yeah. It's not going to be going well after 6 months. Get rich schemes don't exist in my experience. No. Most businesses I've worked in are make your money by working very hard over a very long period of time scheme. That's how you get to be successful. And then people see you in 10 years' time and think, wow, haven't you done well? And they don't see those...
they didn't see you skint for 3 years.
Yeah. So I think that's really important to have that long-term mindset. And I think that's another thing that I think differentiates strong leaders. You can have that long-term view and you can motivate your team towards where you want to be in that period of time, even though at the moment it's particularly challenging.
Yeah, that's the bit I've struggled with a little. Well, not struggled with. I haven't struggled with, actually. I've surprised myself. Yeah. I've been able to keep a team focused, happy to be there, part of something, working towards something, even though when I know it's fucking really tough and we're not doing anything. Yeah. Like the franchise support team here, we sold 1 franchise last year, but we ate 6 the year before, and I think 7 the year before that. Yeah. So having a team of people who are hungry to just grow and push and having kind of nothing.
I think it's also really important that you can highlight to people how successful they're being. The market was really bad last year. Yeah. To do one is a success. There's lots of people that didn't do any. Yeah. So let's not beat ourselves up. Let's recognise that the market conditions are really tough. Yeah. We kept persevering. We're developing the brand. When things do pick up, we're ready to really grab hold of it. So that's a success, not a failure.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what we did. We've got a new CRM system in. We did all sorts of stuff. Yeah. So it's interesting, isn't it? And you got a good perspective on life.
I think you can choose. You can't choose what happens to you, but you can choose how you respond to it.
Yeah.
And that's been my mantra for a long time.
Yeah.
You can either, too many people get slapped and get down because they've been slapped, rather than actually use it as an opportunity to learn and learn and grow.
Yeah, 100%.
What happened with Sam and I having kids was really tough, but boy, do I enjoy having my kids now, because we've really had to work for that. And they're amazing. So to have been through that makes you stronger.
Yeah. Talk to me about it then. All the money's gone. Everything's really fucking tough. 3 kids. What do?
You just keep going. I think, and probably the main reason you keep going is because you're in too deep to stop.
Yeah.
Failure wasn't an option.
You can't do that.
So you have to. So one of the brilliant things about franchising is all the different people in the sector. There's so many people. So I went out and spoke to people in totally different sectors who've got good franchise businesses. They all gave me the time. I went to see them. They had a coffee there and just picked their brains and worked out what was working, what wasn't working, what we needed to change. And slowly over time, it really started to bed in. And then we recruited some amazing people. Ruth Brown came in and they took over recruitment. We started recruiting 30 franchise owners a year and did that for 3 years in a row without reducing quality, without, we weren't just selling, we were rewarding to high caliber people.
Yeah. She's a bit of a monster, isn't she, Ruth?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you look at the whole team, and an awful lot of the team are still there now.
Yeah.
I think a sign of a good leader is, my view is, you can walk away and the business keeps running. They'll probably say it's a good sign of good people. But I think as a leader, everybody you recruit needs to be better than you.
Yeah.
If you can do anyone's job better than them, you've got the wrong person in that role.
100%.
As a leader, you're paid to think, not to do. And that's really counter. And you think, we've got a problem, right? I'll dive in. And all you do is create more stress and more chaos. Yeah. You need to step back if you've recruited the right people in the first place.
Yeah, that's a funny one for me, because I find myself not doing a lot, but it's because I'm thinking all the time.
Yeah, but so again, it's one of those contradictions in leadership. You want to have lots of momentum. I'm a great believer that when you run a business, you need to be going so fast the wheels wobble, but they don't fall off.
Yeah.
If they fall off, you've got a big problem.
Yeah.
If they're not wobbling, I'm not going fast enough, I'm going to keep pushing, I'm going to keep driving.
Yeah.
But you need to be driving the business, not getting involved.
I think it takes a lot of thought, because some of our biggest things have happened because I've had loads of time to think.
Yeah.
Loads of time to think.
Yeah.
And that means sitting at your desk kind of doing nothing.
Well, so if you've got 100 people in your organisation across the network and you go doing, you've increased doing by 1%.
Yeah.
That's not going to have a massive impact on your business. At home instead, we had 6,000 caregivers. If I went out caring, that's insignificant in the scheme of things. If I come up with a new strategy that's going to grow the business by 10%, that's huge.
Yeah.
And if it takes me a month or 2 months to do that, if I'm speaking at an annual conference, you've got one chance to really get your message across. So spending the time to really fine-tune that message and get it right is hugely important.
Yeah, having conversations, thinking.
Yeah.
Putting yourself,
Yeah. So, it is so, we've got a problem, I want to dive in.
No.
Particularly if you're action-orientated.
No.
But
I've learned that's not. Get other people to do it.
Yeah.
I don't mean that, and I do that because they're better at it than me,
exactly.
and they'll do a better job.
Yeah. So I think as a leader, you've got 3 things to do. One is to recruit amazing people. Secondly is to give them a culture that really allows them to perform. And then thirdly, make sure you've got a long-term strategy so everybody's aligned and you know where you're going.
Yeah.
There's another half, which is to make sure that you've got enough money to make all that happen.
Yeah.
But actually, if you've got a good finance director, they should be doing that for you rather than
Yeah.
So, if you're not spending time on those 3 things,
that's all I spend my time on.
Yeah. So, if I met someone who I thought was a real asset to the business, I'd recruit them whether I had a vacancy or not, because they were too good to let go, and I certainly didn't want a competitor having them there. So we would recruit amazing people, and then coach and develop them and help them grow. And
let them coach and develop other people as well.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think how do you gain? Well, I think one of the challenges in business is how do you create competitive collaboration. So what I mean by that, you want your marketing person saying, I want to spend all this money on marketing. And you want your HR person says, no, I need 3 more business support people. And your finance person saying, we're spending too much money. Yeah. So you don't want a team of yes people. You want them all fighting for their own area, but collaboratively around that strategy and that big vision. And managing that so there's enough conflict, but it's a collaborative conflict, is a really important part of leadership.
Mad, isn't it, Kay? Some of the things we do at Tezlom, and then when you hear him talk about it, like, you think we do that sometimes, don't we?
Without actually.
Yeah.
That meeting we had last week.
Yeah.
Competitive collaboration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly it.
Yes, exactly. Amazing. So nice to talk to you about this. It's like our brains like having a rest for a day. It's nice.
Good.
Would you like a job?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm very employable, but that's it.
No. Home instead.
Yeah.
So you've gone from spending the whole shebang to, how long did you have it for, Trevor?
10 years.
10 years. Learned a lot in 10 years, weren't you?
Yeah, absolutely huge.
Where do you think in your career you learnt the most, or do you think you kind of went all the way through it? Like,
that's a good question. I think you learn different things at different times.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes those 1% you learn have more impact than the 10% you learnt earlier on.
It's probably a difficult question to answer this, because I found it difficult to answer. Is there any standout moments that have...
I think one of the things... So when I started Rise, I thought, I've got all this experience now.
Yeah.
I don't need to make all those mistakes. And we put far more processes in place, and all the things that bit us in Home Instead 3 or 4 years down the line.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that. And about a year later, I thought, this is just holding us back. Sometimes as a startup, you need to be scrappy. You need something's good enough, and you just need to get out there and make. So we reversed that, and I actually realised what we did at Home Instead was successful. It just didn't feel it at the time. So I think, I think that I thought it was going to. 4 or 5 years, you had different owners doing different things, off on tangents.
Yeah.
Trying to bring them back was a big challenge, but actually that was part of the learning, and that's how you grew quickly, by having 10 different people doing things rather than doing 10 things over a much longer period of time. So that worked. So I think when you look back, it's always easy with hindsight to think, I could have done it differently, but you never know how it would have happened.
Yeah. Perfection isn't always the best answer, I've found. I think it's just cracking on with it and just seeing what happens.
Yeah.
I've definitely learned that, and unfortunately you have to have people who are perfectionists in your team, but telling them that fucking their job, that perfection isn't going to happen, is difficult. But
that's that duality again. You want perfectionists in the team who will drive you, particularly if you're not a perfectionist. You need people who are there, because they will keep holding you back. And if you're an ideas person, you need people to say, well, that's great, but you had a different idea last week we haven't done yet, so let's go back and finish that one before you move on to your next one.
I hate that. That happens to me a lot.
But that's exactly what you need in the team. Because if you've got 10 people who all say, wow, great idea, you'll never deliver anything, because you'll always be off on the latest shiny thing, rather than you need those people saying, no, I don't care.
This needs finishing off first before you move on to the next one.
So again, that's that collaboration, that competitive element of the team, where some of the team are saying, no way, we're not going to do that yet, we're going to finish this. We had, I think, at the time I sold Home Instead, we got the Queen's Award for Innovation, and 1/3 of all the outstanding rated care providers in England were within Home Instead's network. And that's because we had some real perfectionists in the you can imagine some of the quality orientation conversations that were happening there. At the same time, I was pushing and driving there, and you had to have both running side by side.
Can I ask why you exited? Why did you leave?
So I had an issue with the Americans. We were paying them £1 million a year in royalty.
Fuck me.
And we just weren't getting value.
You weren't getting £1 million of value?
No. So that started a conversation saying this just isn't working. We were bigger in revenue than virtually all the rest of the international countries combined.
Wow. Fucking really smart. What was the turnover of the business?
About 100 million.
Wow.
Across the network. So it was, and we were growing consistently. It was ideally, you want every business to grow around the same size. So we were growing by about 17% a year every year. And I think that 5 mile march where you're doing the same thing all the time is really important, because that makes it scalable. And whereas you have a great year, but then you have a bad year, then you have a great year, you're all over the place. So if you can get that steady. Now, as a younger business, you are all over the place, but once you start to get to that size, it should be more scalable. So that started a conversation. And going back to that integrity bit, you're not giving me value for this. Now, I know it's not a fee for service, and all the conversations I've had with franchisees over the years, but actually this is unfair, and it's actually unfair on our franchisees as well, because they're paying the money that I'm giving to you. They're not seeing any return on.
No.
So morally, I'm not happy from that perspective either. So that started a conversation, and home instead's growth in the US had been pretty flat for a number of years. So if you balanced America on a pin in the middle, that'd be Omaha in Nebraska. Mm-hmm. So it's right in the Midwest. So very few of the team had got any real international experience. They came back with an offer that was based on an American multiple to buy the business, which is about twice what I'd sell it for in the UK.
Right.
They said, why don't we take it off you? So I would have had to have doubled the size of the business just to have made the same amount of money.
Yeah.
And I know too many people who haven't sold and have had an opportunity. Something's happened outside their businesses shrunk and they've lost that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I think having risked all that money when we sold Mesonet into Home Instead, I wasn't going to make the same mistake with the kids. So it was a head and heart. The head said, take the offer. The heart said, I love this business. I love the people. I love what we do. I really didn't want to sell. So that was a much tougher decision than selling the IT company.
Yeah,
and Sam and I really had to soul search on what do we want to do.
Did you have a bigger team as well at Home Instead then?
Yes, we had 30, 40 people maybe.
Yeah.
So, brilliant people, brilliant franchisees.
They believed in you as well.
Yeah, making a huge difference. It ticked every box, apart from the disagreement with the Americans.
Yeah.
And then part of me said, well, actually, I've also got the risk of master franchises are different to a franchise agreement in the UK. You don't have the same legal protection. Yeah. So I was also exposed potentially when it came to renewal. Right. So I could go all the way through. They not renew. I thought it's just there's too much risk there. So that was I'm much better at building businesses than running big businesses.
Yeah.
That's my skill set.
Yeah.
So going back to what I said earlier, it was also thinking, well, I'm young enough to go and do something else.
Yeah.
So when you looked at it, it was the right thing to do.
Nice.
And there was a really strong. You could see there was 5 to 7 years of consistent growth. We had so many owners coming through. We knew the model worked. The business was going to be successful. All the owners that I'd recruited were going to be successful. So I didn't feel I was letting anyone down.
Yeah.
With Ruth, with Martin, Tom, so many strong people. Katie, Natalia. There were so many strong people there. You knew the business was going to be very successful moving forward.
So you just exited.
Yep.
Amazing. So what was the plan after that, or did you not have a plan?
It was to find that next business. I also did a number of non-exec roles. I get too frustrated being a non-exec. And you come to a board meeting and it's a month later and we said you were going to do this and you haven't done it.
Yeah.
And I like being more hands-on and making things happen.
A lot of skills there to also kind of not use as well.
Well, also I think it's taken me an awful long time to acquire the skill set I've now got.
Yeah.
And having put all that hard work in, it's a shame not to use it.
Do you think there might be a little loss of purpose as well, a little bit?
Hugely. I think that purpose bit that's what...
I can't imagine you potting around the garden.
No, I think it's what keeps you young. It's what keeps you active, keeps you motivated. So I think that's... And I thought I was getting the purpose by joining the NHS and the other roles I was doing.
Yeah.
The other... Having been a master franchise, I'd also like to do the opposite and take Rise global.
Yeah.
So I think there's a huge opportunity to take Rise around the world, knowing the US really well, massive opportunity in the US, but also all across Europe there. So, no, I don't think you should ever just sit back and criticise. That's too easy. So I think having got my issues with how the Americans supported us, I'd like to do it in reverse and see if I can do it better.
Yeah.
So that's part of our plan to take Rise further afield outside the UK.
I bet you will. Can't wait to see it happen. It's amazing, that, isn't it? What I was going to ask is, these conversations have been a lot about expansion and growth and business and stuff like that, and I understand that's amazing, but I also know there's a lot of challenges around there. But with family and stuff, how did you cope being a dad and stuff like that, being away from home and stuff? Did you struggle with that at all? Or?
So I never missed a sports day.
No.
If there's a sports day, it's in my diary.
Yeah.
All my kids have been quite sporty. So when my son was playing football for the school team, midweek, the only dads who would be there would be the dads who ran their own business.
Yeah.
Because you said, right, I'm going to go and watch the football for 2 hours and then I'll come back. And I'll do the work in the evening. So no one says you have to go to this critical meeting in London, you have to be there, you control it. So I work really hard, but I also make sure I work around
Yeah.
around the family.
Yeah.
The only birthday I've missed is mine when I've been away.
Yeah.
I've never missed a kid's birthday.
Yeah.
So I think you can write those non-negotiables in there. So I think in some respects, and I'm a great believer that it's about being an active dad, not just a present dad. You know, I think you need to be present actively. Just sat in the corner on your phone scrolling through social media has not been an active. You know, that's not been a good dad. That's not been a great role model.
No.
So I want to be there for my kids. I want them to know they can always call me there. But also I want them to see me having a work ethic and doing things and making things happen. Because that's part of the values I want to instill into them.
Yeah, I think it's got, like I've talked about this before, about being an inspiring dad.
Yeah.
I don't know how inspiring it would be being around them all the time, having no job.
No.
Do you know, that's...
So my dad was a teacher. He was very different.
Yeah.
There. But he was an inspiring dad, just a very different dad.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important, that impact, and that you know, just living your values again.
Yeah, I lost my dad 2 years ago now, and he was poorly for 10 years of that.
Yeah.
So before he got cancer, and then he got Parkinson's, dementia, and he was poorly for a long time. So there's a big chunk of my 30s where my dad was poorly.
Yeah.
And everything, there's a point in time from when I was about 18 till just when I started education point. So actually from 18 till about 26, that's the most amount of time I remember about my dad. Prior to that, he was away a lot, but I'm still too young to remember that.
Yeah.
I remember going on amazing holidays.
Yeah.
I've been to America 12 times or something like that when I was in my younger years because my dad worked so hard. I remember being around small businesses, and I used to have a franchise. We did dieting food, and I used to run around on the trolley jacks. You know, you use a skateboard, you put a handle on, you put your leg through the middle. Yeah. I remember all them times, but do I remember my dad not being there? But I know from talking to Mum that he wasn't. Yeah. But do I remember how to negotiate a sales meeting? Yeah. Can I hold myself in any dynamic? Yeah. And I think they're the bits that I think. So I think that's what leads me on with my kids. Is I have missed a sports day actually, but it was at an expo. But I've never missed any sports days, and I don't miss a lot of stuff. I'm there from a lot of things, but it's about being there when they want me and letting them see how I lead my life is important, isn't it?
And I think that I have missed sports days because it rained, and then it got rearranged, and it got rearranged today that I'd rearranged the meeting to already, so I wasn't going to rearrange it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But I think it's more the intent. And
I wasn't. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean too. It's the intent, isn't it? And trying to be there all the time, understanding that you can't be there all the time, but you can be. Yeah. Interesting. So Homestead, you came along and you sold. Who did you sell to?
I sold back to Homestead Inc.
Oh, did you? Right. Yeah. And that's they still own it now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The owners of Homestead actually sold out to Honor, which is a VC. So I understand the business is quite different now.
Yeah.
So again, reinforced we've made the right decision.
Yeah. And then you've got Rise now.
Yeah.
So talk a bit more about Rise. Or you run it with the guy, Rob, is it?
Yeah.
I met Rob, he's a lovely guy.
Yeah, Rob's brilliant.
Yeah, nice guy.
When we talk about active listening, he's one of the best listeners I've ever come across.
Yeah.
His questioning just blows me away. It's like, wow, why didn't I think of that? He's just fantastic.
Yeah, nice guy, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'll have to get him on the podcast.
He's brilliant. He's also, again, he's very humble. He's very
genuine.
You
both are very humble guys, aren't you?
Well, I think there is so much in the world for everyone to know. All of us know a fraction, and I think one of the problems with some leaders is they start to believe their own hype. Yeah. Now, you need to be good at marketing, and you need to, but people get complacent and they suddenly think they're fantastic. And quite often it's the people around them that are fantastic, not them anyway.
Yeah.
But I just don't. I just don't get that.
No.
So when Sam and I were looking to go into business with that integrity bit and the values bit was, again, the non-negotiable. Yeah. So Rob came along. He actually approached us just before COVID, but of course COVID came along and stopped everything for a couple of years. But the idea he's got, he also lectured in sports science for a while, so the science behind what we do is really thorough. So I think he's a great business partner.
Love that, mate. How long's it been going for now?
3.5 years.
Yeah, it's perfectly sized and sized and everything.
Yeah,
Isn't it? It's perfect now, isn't it?
I think this year's really exciting. We're now in England, Ireland, Scotland and Wales. We've got a number of owners who are really starting to grab hold of it. We had a challenge for a while, which is quite interesting. Our sessions are brilliant, but it meant our franchise owners love delivering the sessions. Which again is brilliant, but then they're not growing the business.
They're not working on the business, are they? They're working in the business.
You know, when you start a care business, you do very few care shifts. You immediately recruit carers and the care managers.
Yeah.
So we're getting them to recruit that team of activity leads so they can
they
can grow and develop. And as you were saying before, there are so many potential customers and types of people we can deliver service to we haven't even thought of.
Yeah.
I think we also, our vision in 2 or 3 years' time is to have Rise boutiques, a bit like you can have a Pilates boutique or a yoga boutique.
Yeah.
So we'll have boutique gyms for Rise on the high street, going back to that catering for older people who want to get active, where they can come to do Rise sessions, they can do one-to-one sessions.
There'll be some amazing places, you know, for that. There's a place in Southport that'll be amazing for that, called Sandpipers. It's just closed down.
Yeah.
It's on the front there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so much property around it currently. There's some good deals to be done.
Yeah, I bet there would.
And I think that will... Clearly, there's a big capital outlay and there's more complexity in that. So that's not... You know, I'm a great believer in what do you want to be famous for?
Yeah.
And I think that's a stretch. Let's do what we do now, really get it embedded, get the brand out there, really understand how to deliver the sessions, and then we'll look at the boutiques in a couple of years' time as the next stage of our development.
Amazing, mate. You're an interesting chap to be around a lot of time. I want to speak to you more regularly. Okay, have you got any questions?
I actually have. Are you ready, Trevor?
Go on then.
Right, this is a good one. Okay. If you could swap your life with anybody in the franchising world, outside franchising world, personal, who would you swap it with to see their perspective?
Probably my wife, because she's got a great life because she's married to me.
What does your wife?
I doubt she'll say that, but that's...
What does your wife do? Does your wife have a job, or what does she do in the business?
So she was... I think people see me because I've been the face of the businesses.
Yeah.
So I get
all
the glory and all the reputation, and Sam's working really hard behind the scenes. I think quite often I think I'm the voice of the business and she's the brains. So we've always worked together. She's less involved in Rise because I'm doing it more with Rob. But yeah, she's always been. So to say, that's a great question. I quite enjoy being me, to be fair. And I think I can't be anybody else. So I think one of my my grandparents, she worked in the... my granddad was a HGV driver for ICI, and she worked in the HGV driver's canteen. My Nana's view on life was, don't have dreams because you'll just end up getting disappointed. Love the life you've got today. And I thought that was now, I do have dreams, but I also make sure I love the life I have today. So I think that advice was fantastic.
Yeah, I think... Yeah, see, I am going through so much at the minute, and I am definitely learning that you can find... So I don't have this... There's so many people in my life who have this need and want to travel, and I've got a real resentment to it in the minute, and I have absolutely no fucking desire to go anywhere because I'm really content with what I'm doing right now, and I'm doing so little. I have so little money around me at the minute. I have so little cash around me. I have such a small outlet in life. I don't really go that far. I don't really go anywhere fancy or do different things. I don't really have the opportunity to do, but I'm just really content in what I'm doing. And I find that that's the most nice place to be.
I think that's brilliant. One thing I've never understood is people who live for 2 weeks a year when they go on holiday.
Yeah.
If you're that unhappy doing what you do, go and do something else. Don't just live for your 2 weeks when you go to Spain.
Yeah,
that's no life.
Yes, I don't get it. Like this massive urge to go and find myself in some tropical climate. I'm like, why the fuck you not find yourself today? Yeah. Why have you not found yourself this morning while you're making your cornflakes and say, I am not fucking doing it? Like, if I have got one person that works in Tezlom that got up this morning and didn't want to come to work, please hand your notice in. Please leave and go and find a better life. Please, I don't want you to be here. I don't want you to be sad.
So we said to our kids after so Ben had finished his A-levels, Jess was at uni, and we hadn't had a holiday because of COVID and so we said to them, we'll go anywhere in the world. Be one of our last family holidays before you all leave, so what do you want to do? And we looked at the brochures and we got the States out and we looked at safaris, and we've got a place over in Abersoch in North Wales and they came back and said, can we go to Abersoch? We fill the jet ski up with fuel every day, we fill the boat up every day, and we go and eat out rather than eat in the chalet. Everywhere in the world they wanted to go to our place in North Wales. I thought that was magical.
Yeah. Most of our memories will be made there.
Yeah. And I think it's making the most of what you got, not wishing your life away doing
100%. It's so true. But I think you have to do it from a place of glory, unfortunately. I think you have to get there sometimes.
And I think one of the other great phrases is easy decisions, hard life.
Yeah.
Hard decisions, easy life.
Oh, massively.
And I think I think you've got to, sometimes you've got to take a step back, and it means life won't be as good tomorrow as it was yesterday, but actually be brilliant in a year's time.
So true, mate. Fucking hell, so true. It's probably the whole home care industry's wanting me to ask you loads of questions about home instead, but I'll be dead honest with you. I've got everything out of this podcast I wanted. You're one of the most inspiring, humble people I've ever had on this podcast. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
You're absolutely what the UK industry needs. You need to be heard more. You definitely need to do some more public speaking around it. You definitely get yourself more podcasts, mate.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming on.
Cheers, Ryan. Thank you. That's okay.